Alright, let's talk about the M1E1. This vehicle perfectly fits the tank stereotype. A spearhead that pushes into the enemy at the front of your team, strong frontally, but doesn't have the greatest DPM. However, it has a ton of utility with the APS, the minigun, and the ult. When the enemy is in front of you, but it definitely falls apart when the enemy gets your sides or rear. First off, let's go over the modules. For the Gatling gun module slot, all options can be a decent choice. However, some are better than others. For the 5 cost module, the X56P is the better choice, and the 10 cost HS Crystal is also an okay choice for low cost options due to the increased damage capability and the reduced cooldown. For the 15 cost, the CX5 Magnesium is the best option, as the AG damage is consistent and nice for stripping shields off of enemies. The Flamethrower isn't as good, as you aren't credited for the fire damage you cause, and you have to penetrate most of the minigun ammo before setting a tank on fire. For the higher cost modules, Tungsten is a decent module as it allows you to crit, and the increased pen is nice for punching through the sides of some tougher opponents. However, the 50-meter range on it is a bit limiting. For the Berserk module, I wouldn't take this over other legendary modules, as yes, you can shoot while APSing, but the problem is it has no synergy with TCCP, as you cannot cancel it once you activate the minigun. With the APS module, when it comes to the 5 costs, the Trophy L1 is better with its increased HP. When it comes to 15 costs, the Sphere is the better option for me, as the APS shield size increase along with the HP increase can be nice. The BAE2 is okay if you can bait people to shoot you with it, but the fire is not really optimized in this game and it can cause hard frame drops. For the 20 costs, you have arguably one of the best modules to take on the M1E1, the DOT-D, which gives you hasted while your APS is up. This allows you to accelerate backwards extremely fast and also allows you to go 40 kilometers backwards. The penalty does make you a bit more sluggish, but is made up for the hasten effect while APSing. DOTC can also be an okay choice, but to get any use from it, you will need people to shoot down your APS, and the slowed turret traverse is pretty substantial on the M1E1 with its already slow turret traverse. The Legendary is also another one that I wouldn't consider worthwhile, especially with the self-daze that it gives you, which is still set to the full 8 seconds. For the first toughness module, the 5 cost HSC-2 is a great early pickup with the plus 5% to hit points. When it comes to both of the 10 costs, I feel like it'd be better to save credits than to pick either of them. For the 15 costs, the Bustle can be a good early pickup or a good budget energy pickup depending on the build you're running, as the minus 15% ammo rack crit is a really nice thing to have on the M1, especially since it shows its ammo rack the moment it turns its turret away from any enemy. The R16 LR is a useless 20 cost module, as it is too situational and the debuff far outweighs the buff it has attached. The VPS Knight is the best legendary module to choose for the M1 with its 20% to HP and its increased armor, and the debuffs aren't as harsh as some of the other modules, and the conditional is also very nice to have in conjunction with the HE minigun. For the second toughness module, the 5 cost modules aren't worth it at all. The 10 cost has a useless buff with the plus 5 radiation damage reduction, as nothing applies radiation damage at this time in the game. The fire resistance of 7% is a nice buff for early game builds, though it is overshadowed by the CPS-2 due, which can be purchased with faction currency and put on the vehicle at lower levels. This module has some very good buffs, and the conditional it comes with is very nice to have, as you don't have to burn your repair kit the first time you get set on fire or your crew gets dazed. The MCBS is another that I would consider useless, as again it's too situational. When it comes to 20 costs, the better option is the DMB20S, as again the crit reduction is a great thing to have with this tank, and with the Bustle upgrade you can reduce crit damage to your ammo by 30%. It also has essentially the same conditional as the other 20 costs, but with a cooldown. For the firepower slot, all the modules are kinda fair game. For the 5 cost, either the reload or damage increase are nice to have. Both 10 costs can also be useful to either boost your ammo crit damage or increase your slow turret traverse. The reticle size isn't as important for the M1 though. The only one I would consider bad from these modules is the thermal option, as it again slows down your turret traverse and is only good if you're playing in a squad that is using a bunch of vehicles that do deploy smoke. Now, the high bar. The reload and penetration increase are nice. Damage reduction and shell speed do hurt a bit, but it's definitely made up by the conditional. This module swaps its normal shells to heat, which have a better crit chance, and when it comes to the reload minigame, it is a 2-stage minigame. Hitting in the zone gives you a 25% boost to reload, but hitting the sweet spot is a 40% boost to reload. If you can consistently hit the sweet spot, your reload is cut down to 4 seconds and your DPM potential skyrockets. However, choosing this module does mean you have to concede some other modules. In my case, when testing, I swapped the VPS Knight for the Bustle upgrade. For the final module slot, there are only 3 here worth talking about. The Irook for the 5% repair kit heal. This makes the large repair kit heal for 2100 hit points. If you're running the small repair kits, after using it all 3, the total heal will be 2205 instead of 2100. The next module is TCCP. This is a very important module for the Gatling gun, and I wasn't aware of how good this module was until Anti-Tank informed me. Essentially, if you cancel your Gatling gun before you use up all of its ammo, your Gatling gun has an 8-second reload, meaning you shoot, then you Gatling gun. By the time you finish Gatling gunning, you shoot again, reload, shoot again, and then Gatling gun, all within approximately 16 to 18 seconds of your first shot. The final mod to talk about is the VMG1. The debuffs are a bit nasty, but if you're playing in a squad, this is a great mod to have to boost your teammates. For an early build, this is what I would recommend. When it comes to personal builds, these are the 2 that I run. The first one is for when I want to play more as your typical hero shooter-esque tank. And the second one is if I want to be more mobile and dish out more damage. I should mention, for the Gatling gun mod, I am running HE on both builds. Now let's go over some tips for the M1. First off, you always want to be facing directly towards an enemy. Trying to angle your frontal armor will expose your sides and allow your fuel tank to be hit, which can also set you on fire. However, you can also use this to your advantage, as if you wiggle your hole, it can bait people into trying to shoot for the weak spots. Just do not over-angle. The same thing can be said for your turret. If you cannot get your hole turned in time, always make an attempt to point your gun straight at an enemy, as turning your turret exposes your turret side and your ammo rack, which can be easily pinned if you accidentally over-angle, which is very easy to do in this tank. The best option for trying to avoid shots is to slightly wiggle your turret. This doesn't hide the easily pinnable spots where the turret meets the hole. When it comes to the minigun usage, you typically want to use it right after you fire to prevent an enemy from healing up between your reload, and with TCCP, this makes the downtime of your minigun really short. For APS usage, the best time to use it is either when you are pushing onto a point or area that you can easily be shot at, such as the push from D point to B point on boss and crash at the start of the game. Another good option is to pop your shield when you need to heal, as it gives you a safe area to heal behind, especially if you have hasted APS, which allows you to reverse safety faster than the enemy expects you to. When it comes to your ult, it does a lot of damage and can one-shot enemy vehicles. The one thing that should be noted on its usage is the direction the ult comes in from, especially if there's a building between you and an enemy. If you just drop your ult normally, the way the bombs drop, half of the ones that normally would hit the enemy usually hit the building instead. So one way to get around this is to completely rotate the ult so the bombs are coming towards you instead of going away from you. And when an enemy is underneath hard cover, such as the hull of the aircraft carrier, there's no point in dropping the ult, as all roofs will stop your bombs. When it comes to playstyle, the chopper is very easy. It's balls to the walls, pressing W the whole time until you're low, and then retreat as fast as you can. You're a meat shield that dishes out damage and is very hard to crack, especially if you use your strong frontal armor to your advantage. Though it should be noted, just because you can press W all the time doesn't mean you always should, as you never want to drive past an enemy, as you always want to keep the enemy in front of you. Sometimes this means keeping more distance than you might like, as driving up close and personal with 3 enemies isn't always the best decision. So even though you play aggressive in this vehicle, it's also about picking your battles in a way that you can come out alive, as dying in this vehicle can definitely be costly with its slow speed. That about sums up Chopper's M1. It's a very easy tank to play, however it is very rewarding when you do high damage games and get high scores. That's all for me, folks. Hope you enjoyed the gameplay.
ain't going nowhere.